yeah, let's go into this now. We got some buffs here. For core mechanics, Frostbite is longer now. It went from 1.5 seconds to infinite. Okay. So how does this work? Interesting. So you can keep things frostbitten or frozen forever. As long as you keep attacking them with Frostbite, they will just continue to be repeatedly frozen longer and longer. That is actually pretty big for a lot of builds. Let's see. Oh, Frostbite lasts forever. So you can basically, you'll eventually build something up to a freeze. Regardless, instead of Frostbite like falling off, if you're not getting enough, hitting enough times, or hitting with enough Frostbite, you would never freeze things before, but you will always freeze things now. But it looks like you can have like queued freezes basically on monsters, which will be nice. Okay, you cannot inflict Frostbite on units that are frozen, but it looks like, I wonder what happens if you, let's see, what's this say? Okay, so if you have like a really, really big hit that does a lot of Frostbite, so you know, say you hit them with a Frostbite threshold of 300, then that would basically be a longer freeze. That's really nice. So you can really take advantage of this if you like really, really lean into freeze. You'll be able to get some really nice long freezes on things. This is pretty much just going to be a buff for anything. Again, Frostbite and Gemma is going to get a huge buff out of this. Frost Iris, things like that will be really, really nice. Being able to freeze bosses just for the benefits, but not actually, you know, get the benefits of freeze, but still be able to get the like benefits of, you know, if a target is frozen. Those will be really nice. So we got some new Frostbite duration and Frostbite effect. This will be really cool. We got Frostbite and Gemma here, who has gotten a nice overhaul. Everything from what we showed before her, it seems like a lot of it is just really, really leaning into like getting these huge freezes on enemies in order to get this massive buff effect. There were some new changes to the hero traits or the trees that give you a nice like continually and repeatedly lowers the cold resistance for monsters for every like 0.1 seconds that they've been frozen. So you're going to be able to see some really, really big multipliers coming out of this. Yeah, it'll be really, really cool. Kind of see her. We got some Berserker Rayon Anger. The burst effect now applies to ailments as well. Nice. We got Berserker Rayon with Seizing Silhouette. Let's see. Where after acquiring the trait point for seeding, it would incorrectly register if allies were constantly present. I'm curious what the bug was with that. And let's see. Okay, so when Seething Spirit triggered by taking damage deals an additional physical damage equal to 100% of the damage received. Now it just gives you additional rage regen. Probably better. I presume they want rage regen and not some thorns damage for sure. Divine Shot Corino, Ranger of Glory. He definitely needed the most work. He was, you know, severely kind of underpowered compared to a lot of the classes. When consuming ammo, gain an additional 30% projectile damage. Has now been adjusted to 35%, giving you additional movement speed and reload. Okay, yeah, additional movement speed and some extra damage. That's nice. Let's see. Higher chance for reload special ammo and higher damage. That's very nice. Let's see here. Okay, literally double the damage on your magic shot. Really cool. These are some nice buffs that, you know, can hopefully push them into a range where it's not just completely outshadowed by a lethal shot, which will be really cool. Let's see. Okay, some even higher damage. So, yeah, just higher damage, the more special ammo. So you're really, really leaning into this special ammo kind of setup here, which will be really nice. Lethal Flash here. has been buffed as well. Really cool. So some extra damage on their level 32 traits. It looks like some extra damage on your level 50 traits as well. Looks like that's going up by 50% on both of those. And it looks like your darkness limit is going up. I do not recall what that does exactly again, but it seems like everything's a buff, so we're going to continue to call it a buff. Desperate Measure, projectiles now with a fixed attack and gas speed 2 times per second. I'm trying to remember if Desperate Measure, let's see here. Let's just see on the Torchlight wiki here. No longer reload ammo when reusing mobility skills. It gives you less damage. Projectile skills will consume all ammo and give you plus 35% damage for each ammo consumed. I don't recall. Well, yeah. It looks like there was probably some sort of abuse set up where people were really using this to get some instant reloads and attacking more than twice per second to get some really, really big numbers out of this that they wanted to curb the outlier there. Nice, an indicator for stalker stacks. That should be really good. Let's see. More movement speed and more damage because of movement speed for Erika. Looks like, again, more multi-strike damage. Just some straight buffs across the board for Erika as well. Escapist Bin, he got like really overly nerfed last league, so it looks like they're just giving him, what is this, 25% damage across the board. Yeah, 25% more damage on basically every trait here, 25% here, 25% here, 10% here. What is this, an extra 40% here. Same thing, extra 20%. And okay, yeah, hopefully that's enough. I know with a lot of the changes they removed with removing like spell burst from the mines really hurt their damage a lot, so hopefully they can get it back up. Seeping in, I guess, was bugged, so they fixed it, I guess. They buffed the fusion energy. This is probably in line because of the fusion energy nerf that was done. They wanted to basically get things back up a little bit while preventing like the big abuse scenarios. And okay, but they nerfed the additional damage. So they gave you higher baseline. I guess they didn't change anything. They just moved this, right? Because before you would get... So they made Gemma better early game. Because you basically get half of your level 62 trait now at basically the very beginning of her instead of... and then you get like a little bonus at 62 instead of doubling your effect at 62. So that'll be just good for leveling. That's nice. Predicted hope here with Wisdom of the Gods. I'm kind of curious. Single use could only stack up to 20, maximum 20. I guess there was a bug with this. Incarnation of the Gods, Thea. It looks like they buffed this basic trait here on Thea here. But let's see here. They nerfed the damage on full life. Divinity here at level 13, which, I mean, she was pretty outlier. They needed a little bit of nerfs on her adjustments. Let's see. So they buffed Might Flow. That's nice. And they buffed Incarnation of the God. So, yeah. It looks like that's good. I heard someone saying that Thea Wisdom of the Gods was changed a bit, or they like nerfed snapshotting a bit, so be aware of that, I guess. It looks like for SpaceTime Yuga here, We have some additional spell damage. They buffed him. Again, just another straight buff across the board. And then, let's see here. +1 to spell skills. Get extra area on Twisted Space-Time. Extra spell damage. Okay. So this is a pretty big change here. 15. They went from 6% spell damage up to a max of 90 to 15% to a maximum of 150. That's a pretty significant buff. So, yeah, that's like a 60% more multiplier, something like that already alone. That should be pretty significant. Gonna bring them up. I know then the patch notes or in the preview they were mentioning Space-Time Elapse having one of these and now work for Reap and for damage over time stuff. So, let's see. Yeah, every 3 points of space-time energy, gain an additional 1% of damage over time. Instead of this being tied specifically to just twisted space-time. Let's see. I guess they fixed a bug here. We have some. Okay, some more damage for him here instead of just lower movement speed for enemies. And then, okay, so yeah, this is the one I was talking about where it now works for Reap Purification as well, which is nice because a lot of the builds that are using this are wanting to use Reap Purification, so you're not just having to fully wait out the dots every single time. So that should be good. We got Order Calling Moto here. Some more damage for overloaded monster or minions. And then, let's see here. And 5% more damage for overloaded enemies. We got Charge Calling Moto here, Concentrated Fire. The indirect physical damage caused by minions and synthetic troops during the persistent period of overload. Okay, 50% damage. What is this again? That's actually really, really big. That's fairly huge because before it was, I mean, again, that's a really, really big buff. I mean, again, it's 30% more multiplier pretty much, if I recall, based off of what it was doing. Because everything is always overloaded when it explodes on Moto, so you're getting a pretty significant buff with that. Quick battle. After applying overload through a trait skill, all synthetic minions will gain overload. Okay, they lowered this just slightly, but I don't think this really changes anything though. Like, I'm pretty sure everything dies instantly on charge calling, so not really an issue here. We got Forsaken Iris, Glowing Breeze. So they made it easier and faster to get into Ultimate. So for like Fire Iris, we'll probably see the most out of this because they were the ones that really wanted to be running the build to running the Ultimate setup just for the Ultimate Ignite. So that's some increased bossing damage for that. You know, they lowered the amount of nourishment stacks they need to get to. So you'll be able to have higher uptime on that. Got Windrider channeling. She doesn't take as much damage while she is using Windrider. That's nice. So it's just a solid little buff. And then we got Growing Up Together. When Spirits Maggots cast a skill for each deck of nourishment, there's a 3% chance the skill will gain less attack and cast speed, but more damage. They've changed this to where it's even more damage. So that's nice. So it gives you some extra incentive to build into nourishment a little bit more. Not quite too much more, though, just because like you have to go into a lot just to get a small chance that you're getting like a really big damage hit. So you're not really going to lean into nourishment too much just for that, but that's kind of nice. We got some new relics and hero memories for Frostbite and Gemma. And we got some new hero traits for everything else here as well. These are all going to basically depend on specifically what character you're playing and what you end up wanting to use. I wonder if this is the thing for Thea that got nerfed. Thundercloud was getting extra bonuses or basically getting some weird snapshotting things. Things like that. So a lot of these are just going to be bug fixes for a lot of characters or for a lot of classes. Let's see what we got here. So it looks like the Flame Core, Frost Core, and Thunder Core, and all channeling abilities. Holding the skill is considered the same skill when not properly benefiting from fixed bonuses related to that or the next use of the ability. Okay, so for every 1 second, gain an additional 15% fire damage. Okay, so I guess that's bonuses for channeled abilities. That's nice. Base Terra charges for all Terra skills have been reduced from 3 to 1. The effect when consuming charges and the base damage of the skill have been adjusted accordingly. I'm curious if this means... So they don't want you to have as many things down at once, but I'm kind of curious what the implication of what this is for Terra skills, if they're just being nerfed overall or if their damage is being adjusted, accounting for them to be having less down at once or using them less frequently. War Cries all got slowed down a bit. Spellburst aim radius has been increased. Nice. Let's see what we got here. They fixed some tags on a lot of skills. Projectile jump radius got further. When minions reach the summoning cap, all active summoning abilities are no longer summoned in minions to replace the original ones. This is good because I know people were having issues with this with Moto, like charge calling Moto, where you're resummoning minions before they could properly explode. So you were lowering your damage if you were like clicking your button at not the right cadence. So that would be really, really nice for him. That would be greatly appreciated. What do we got here? We got Frost Spirits Empower skill, Frost Release. Okay, so Frost Release gives a damage bonus, gives a higher damage bonus for the next 5 skill uses, but it now lowers itself from 81% to 15%. But it does go to a maximum of 5 layers now, but it is multiplicative now, and it also works for itself. So from doing the damage numbers on this, this should overall be like a damage increase for Frost Iris, as long as you're hitting like more than a couple times, right? Like your potential for having like a really, really big hit on the first or second hit on a monster, it will probably be more baseline, where it's going to be more consistent at a certain amount of basically hits, and then once you get to like 4 or 5 hits, your damage will be higher with the new version than it was with the old, and it should feel better mapping as well, because before you would basically get like 1 hit for like 150 billion damage, and then you get a lot of hits for like 5 to 10 billion, something like that. So having something where you're getting that consistent, more consistent damage on everything, because your multipliers are now working for Frost Release as well, which you're getting like 6 of these casts off a second. This is going to be better overall for clear. It's going to be better overall for everything. I know a lot of people are thinking this is a huge nerf, but you will see like the giant numbers less often, most likely. You won't be seeing those like 200 or 300 billion hits as often, but your overall damage will be higher, just because it's going to be multiplicative now, and it stacks up to more times, because before it was only stacking for the next 3 attacks, now it's stacking for the next 5. So you're going to have a more consistent level of damage instead of like really spiky damage and then really low. So this is going to be nice. Burst of Anger has been nerfed. They are, let's see. Okay, I guess it's not a nerf. That's actually a buff for clear. So Train Rayon getting buffed. He'll take that. Oh wait, Burst of Anger is the skill. Sorry. We got Scorching Beam here. These beam effects have been buffed. Here, it looks like they want some more damage for beams. They're really trying to push those. What Whirlwind got faster, and it doesn't have to have as many stacks in order to get to max. I don't know if that's if it had damage per stack that it was on, so that may be a nerf, it might be a buff. We'll have to see. We got focus reload, some mobility skills here. Anything else stand out? Frost Terror no longer supplies Frostbite, but it deals additional damage to frozen enemies. And it got its base damage lowered a bit. Let's see. So no longer increase freeze status or Frostbite, but it also gives additional steep strikes when things are frozen. Okay, has some potential. When main skill deals damage. Huh? Main skills no longer trigger cursed skills on hit. So it needs to be a main skill that deals damage, not just that hits, I guess. Interesting. I don't know what skills were hitting but not dealing damage. I guess if you're using it set up where you couldn't deal damage yourself or something, I don't know. Okay, Ice Imbue now has explosions. It's like Herald of Ice Explosions. Those are nice. Flame Imbue got some extra damage. Creates terrain that inflicts persistent fire damage equal to excess of the fire damage per second. And then Magic Dash can now enhance attack mobility skills. Cool. What do we got here? Hunting Tempo will... Don't recall this skill, actually. Increase movement time. And then some increased damage. That's just a buff. Some buffs for carbon bombardment, I believe. Looks like most everything's just getting a nice buff across the board for a lot of these underutilized skills. They're not afraid to push the damage on these quite a bit. I wish they'd do the same thing for Path of Exile, but you know, we'll see. They'll hopefully learn from the good things for other things. Shadow Swamp was an outlier doing too much damage, so it got nerfed quite a bit. Well, I guess the damage increase per movement has gone up quite a bit, but they lowered the baseline because of that. So you have to rely into this a bit more if you want to end up getting the same numbers as before. Everything else moving up across the board. Is there anything else that got nerfed that we can see? Quick Return got a buff. That's nice. Let's see. Recklessness got nerfed for minions, I guess, here. And then I don't okay, yeah. And then all of the added fire, added cold, lightning, etc. all got buffed across the board. Like, this is nearly double the damage. That's kind of crazy. Here, all the imbues here got buffed as well. And then talents, let's see, core talents have been adjusted. Let's take a look here. Block is lucky. That's just a straight buff here. We got a straight buff on Warlord. On Sweep. We got a... It got rid of the Explode. On True Flame. I guess they didn't like the explosions, and then it looks like they get some bonus to persistent damage over time from Affliction for when they are ignited. More splits, but yeah, more splits. Just a buff on 3 birds with 1 stone. Transition. Wonder if this is getting nerfed. Let's see. Let's see. Casting a lightning skill, 50% chance to gain 75% crit damage. Yes, that is a pretty significant nerf. So, I mean, I guess it's better for non-crit builds, but it's pretty significant damage nerf for crit. Yeah. Cultivation. Got some additional cast speed now. Instead of life and mana restoration speed. Going to be used more for sure. We got stability here, which is you restore life and ES at the same time. Right, so that's nice. For those hybrid builds, we got acquaintance. Additional trigger chance. And then we got some buffs to rebirth here. Got us a knowledge. Chili got buffed. People, they no longer need to be nearby for the additional 20% spell damage. That's a really, really big buff. Right here, 2%, 2 points of frostbite on the enemy, take 1% damage. With the new limit of this being 300 now, like this is going to be really big for a lot of things, for a lot of builds. You can really lean into this. I mean, this is going to be 150% more multiplier for basically Frostbite and Gemma, or any build that can really, really lean into big Frostbite. Winter will be highly sought after because that is a massive, massive. That's a massive more multiplier. I'm curious if this will change or if this will stay, or if this will get nerfed to some degree. Preparation. Let's see. Will now give you focus blessing for every 6% mana spent. Lower focus blessing duration. But gives you an additional cast speed. A big additional cast speed when you're at full. That should be nice. We got play safe. Let's see. Bonus and additional bonus to cast speed also apply to spell burst at 100%. Skills that are not spell burst have an additional. What? Oh, bonuses and additional bonuses. So both now apply to spell burst instead of just increases and reductions. So things that give you more cast speed are now applying to spell burst as well. That's a pretty big buff. Let's see. Mind Blade got buffed. So anyone who's doing some mana stacking shenanigans will get some good stuff for that. Frostbitten. Probably a nerf. It's probably ends up actually equaling out to similar. As long as things are frozen, you should be fine. And now that you can freeze bosses, it's probably better, to be honest. Buff on mana. Extreme coldness. Yeah, this is the other big one with the like really long freezes that people are getting here. Being able to get up to like a 4.5 second freeze or something like that, this can get really, really big. That will be nice. Feeding enemy causes cold spell damage to nearby enemies based on max mana. When not on low mana. Let's see here. Minus 100% skill cost. Upon exiting low mana status, restore 20% mana. Okay. So they want you to not be on low mana, and they basically make you stay at this 30% more damage more often. And if you do actually get low mana, it gives you a huge mana regen here. That's pretty nice. We got a buff for quick ritual. We got a buff for peculiar vibe, I think. Let's see. Yep, extra elemental ailment chance. Here, penetrating for every stack of focus blessing. Gain even more pen. That's a buff for penetrating as well. Shadow Dancer gets. I'm pretty sure that's a buff. So enemies will regen more slowly if they have like injury buffer stuff. 25% energy buffer. I wonder if this actually makes them have energy buffer though. I'm kind of curious how this works. We'll have to see. I can't do the math in my head right now. So I'm not sure if this is this going to give the monsters some regen basically? Like they're going to heal for 25% of the damage. If you're not one-shotting them, it's going to like slow things down a little bit. Overall, I think that's probably still better. Buff for Continuum. We have a buff for Open Wounds. Versatile. Okay. Extra spell damage. So each use of an attack skill grants 12% more spell damage. So it's the other way around. Instead of using... okay, let's see. Non-sentry attack skill. Okay, so this is a nerf for sentries, basically. But it gives you guaranteed crit. Everything's the same. They just don't want you using this with sentries anymore. So people were probably snapshotting this with sentries to get some big damage, and they wanted it gone. Ronin, this is a nerf going to be because of the max attack damage is lower by a lot. Impending, what do you got here? So it stacks just a little bit faster. 6% every, stacking up to 5 times. Wait, did this change at all? Damage from you. Okay. Additional damage from you. So I guess this is another nerf to sentries or minions, things like that. Let's see, we got Plague here. That's a buff. We have a buff for... additional 25% damage over time is dealt for the next 2 seconds. Okay, so an additional 25% damage is dealt instead of them taking a 25% additional. I don't... Depends how the multipliers are stacking on whether or not that's a buff or a nerf. Or if you have other sources of... If you used to have other sources of the target takes an additional 25% damage or whatever it may be. Let's see. Blur gains an additional effect. 25% additional damage over time instead of nearby. So they no longer need to be nearby. That's good. Oh, okay. No, this is the buff, actually. Because this used to make just the target take that extra damage, but now this gives you a buff. That makes everyone take 25% more damage instead of just the target who is being hit. No, that's a buff. Sorry, I misread that. We got Shadow Master here, which is each deck built on the enemy, minus res. It's changed to Erosion Pen instead. That should effectively be... I think it should be better because it means you can get some other circumstances where like you're ignoring or treating resistances as 0 and then penning them. That would be better. Twisted Belief got a buff. That's good. We have Psychic. 30% additional affliction effect. That should be better overall because you can get some other affliction effect other sources, and then this should be that extra additional 30 will be an overall buff if you actually lean into that. Lower duration on crowd control effects because again they don't want the freezes getting too out of control here. You can apply one additional curse plus 35% curse effect here. Okay, just a buff for verbal abuse. Warlock has been buffed. Even more higher levels to support skills, stab in the back. When blur is active, using your main skill will remove blur. So even more damage if you can repeatedly basically hit blur on there. Not too bad. We got Machinist, straight buff. And then bonuses and additional bonuses to attack speed apply to activation rate. So this is just a straight buff for these. And then we got additional aura effect and sealed mana. For Steel Vanguard here. Is this a nerf though? Because the sealed mana means it's increasing how much mana you're using, I believe, right? Pretty sure that's a nerf. Because I think everything we have for gear is all minus sealed mana. We do not want more sealed mana, we want less sealed mana. So that's actually pretty significant nerf to that. But it was pretty significantly used. So resistance gives higher pen now. That's fine. Panacea, let's see here. Double the healing effect. For heals, not too bad. Let's see here. Just a small buff for Alchemist as well. Aura effects no longer have the legendary medium talent. In medium talents, they now grant a maximum of 4% aura effect. I don't know what that means. Legendary medium talent. Huh. I'll have to see that in game to know what they mean. Oh, this is on Divinity Slates then, right? And you can't get aura effect on a Divinity Slate anymore, probably. If I guess maybe that's what they're talking about. Yeah. The new Divinity Slate, along with the new cards for them, new memories. Kind of went over these. They nerfed the lightning resistance slow candle thing here. Cooldown for triggering rage charge and fearless warcry affixes has been adjusted, so they trigger half as often. They've adjusted some affixes. Okay, aura effects. No more aura effect on weapon because it was giving like 50 or 60% before. That's gone. So they're trying to nerf the aura effect scaling a bit. It looks like between this change and this change over here that we have on the medium talent adjustment here. They're trying to lower, let's see. Okay. Okay, they've just adjusted some bases here. That's nice. They've increased the stuff for Frostbite and freeze duration, things like that on everything. They've adjusted mana things as well to accommodate. Okay. They fixed the T0 missing affixes. They made some adjustments to some other things, to some underutilized things here to buff them. That should be nice. And they buffed a lot of legendary gear here. There's going to be too much to go over. I'm going to link these. If these are any of these that specifically interest you, we'll go over them. But yeah, this would take another hour, and this video is already getting really, really long. So, okay, so they removed some gear. We'll look at that one at least. I do not recall actually ever using any of these on anything, so I think we'll be okay. I remember seeing Chili White as a drop all the time, but looks like they're going to rework them, you know, in a buffed way because they were being not used by anyone and they were just dropping all the time. So we'll have to see. But yeah, other than that, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Other than that, it really seems like the biggest winners out of all this is like they're really, really leaning into Frostbite and Gemma. A lot of these Frost skills, Frost and Freeze has a really, really high potential to deal some really, really big damage. So looking forward to that. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And other than that, see you in the next one. How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to go over the patch notes for the new Twinightmare SS3 season for Torchlight Infinite. Yeah, let's go ahead and just jump into it. The first thing is the new season exclusive gameplay is Twinightmare. We went over this in the build preview video if you want to check that out. But pretty much this league mechanic is similar to maybe like an Expedition or Scourge, something like that, where you will be kind of running the league mechanic, which will let you choose your rewards. But along with these rewards, there is a downside that you will have to basically deal with. Like you're building yourself a map that's going to have specific downsides along with the rewards that you select. So in order to actually get those rewards, you are going to have to be able to clear that map with all the downsides that you selected. So you're basically going to have to do that kind of risk-reward gameplay where, you know, the more risk you're willing to take, the more rewarding it's going to be for yourself. Along with that comes with some really, really innovative crafting stuff in regards to the ability to craft modifiers from legendary items onto rare items. So we're going to be able to see some really, really cool creations coming out of this league, and really looking forward to that. Along with this, the new hero that we are getting is Lightbringer Rosa. Her base kit is seemingly built a lot around block. So you see here she gets a lot of base block chance, and then she is getting additional damage based off of her actual block chance. You know, so you can get yourself up to 50% more damage here based off of your, if you end up actually having just anywhere close to even capped block, I guess. In order to get 50%, you just need 100% total between attack and spell block. So pretty much baseline, she's just going to have 50% more damage on everything, regardless. And then she does have this Murderous Intent stat that she does build up to 150 points. And you can use your class ability here to create a Holy Illumination kind of little area around you, which will pull monsters in around you and, you know, give you some damage bonuses and defensive bonuses while you're in Holy Dominion, or while you're in Holy Domain, and it will consume that Murderous Intent kind of meter while you're in there until it's depleted. So at level 13 here, it looks like we're getting some extra damage after we block. So again, just leaning into block a little bit more. For most times, again, you're not really going to be getting too many blocks off, most likely, just because, you know, we're pretty good about steamrolling most content. But when you do get to a boss, if you get to something that's tanky, you know, you'll really be able to take advantage of this for some more damage. At level 32, you have the choice between Precise Steamroll, which will give you additional damage while in the Holy Domain, but it's also going to increase the consumption of Murderous Intent. Realistically, this is probably just getting to being like a bossing setup. Whirlwind Advance, the same level 32, gives you basically free spell block for your attack block. So this is going to make it much easier to actually get to 100% attack block and 100% spell block. And then you restore 2 points of Murderous Intent for each enemy that enters the Holy Domain for the first time. So this one will probably be a bit better, or used for clear a lot more, just because as soon as you place your bubble down, it's going to cost you 5 Murderous Intent. And if you're pulling in, 15 mobs in there, you're instantly going to get 30 of it back. So this will be probably better for sustain, for mapping, and for clear, just to make things actually feel better if you want to end up like chaining between Holy Dominion or Holy Domain repeatedly and repeatedly just pulling things in. Rosa has some good implications for using something like Savage Rush, so we're going to be able to get like a Rosa train build kind of going on, most likely. It's probably going to be one of the better setups for her, but we're going to have to just get to play around with it and really test it from there. So level 50 here, you get extra Murderous Intent Restoration based on your block ratio. And then if you've blocked recently, you get, again, more damage against enemies in the Holy Domain. So again, just a lot of really things. We're leaning into block, but you still get a lot of damage bonuses even without actually having to block, because you are able to get a lot of this Murderous Intent without having to block anything at all, just by getting things to enter through or in advance, things like that. So I think her kit is overall going to be set up pretty well to not just outright require you to be waiting for something to attack you before you're going to be able to respond with some big damage. We got here Desperation here, which makes enemies attack faster, which I guess would mean they're going to end up causing you to block more often. So I guess that's even an upside. And then you deal more damage as well for every 5 points of Murderous Intent. So that can be up to 100% more damage, or up to 60% more damage, sorry. Because Murderous Intent goes up to 150 baseline. And then we have this Improvisation here, which will give you 5 points of Murderous Intent regen per second if there's been no enemies defeated recently. This one will probably be, again, better for clear, just because while you're running between packs, you're going to be getting that 10 to 15 Murderous Intent regen that you need in order to basically hit your button and basically pull everything in with Whirlwind Advance, which will give you, the next amount of Murderous Intent that you need in order to get to the next pack. So this combination is going to just seem like it's going to be a bit too good for clear. Again, this Desperation and Precise Steamroll setup seems like it's more set up for bossing. We have Crush over here, which is going to give us a higher Murderous Intent cap based off of our block ratio. So I'm actually curious what the cap is. Let's see. What is the baseline cap here? The base upper limit is 150. So with this here, with Crush, you're actually able to get your limit up to 300. Which is actually really big, actually, now that I think about it, for bossing and stuff. Because if you're regenning or you're losing 10 points per second, that's like a whole 30 seconds, presuming you're not even blocking anything, in order to keep this up. So it looks like, yeah, so the more Murderous Intent you have, it does kind of seem like it's trying to keep you lower overall. But that's probably going to end up being a really, really good setup for most things. What do we got? Season Momentum here. While you're in the Holy Domain, you ignore collision, so you get some phasing, which is nice. You get Brave Advance here whenever you block damage. Brave Advance gives you a lot of extra damage. And so you take extra damage, but you deal extra damage. Okay. That seems nice. I mean, that's up to 120% more damage. It's probably going to be hard to beat. So realistically, that's probably going to end up being what you're going to be doing for clear. But we'll have to tinker around it and play with them. So we got some new hero relics and memories for Rosa. So far, from looking over this list, it seems like, again, it looks like realistically, things might end up either getting into this, like, we are, we just want this baseline murderous intent regen, just so that we can kind of sustain Holy Domain as long as possible. Because, right, if you get enough, if you only even get a couple of these, as long as there's an elite in there, you'll basically never have your Holy Domain drop at all. Or there's some other, some other things. Well, it'll basically be kind of getting to this balance point, or figuring out exactly what the best balance point is in order to basically maintain permanent murderous intent if, like, you're dealing with elites or with bosses. And then outside of that, just ensuring you have like enough baseline murderous intent regen to keep going smoothly between pack to pack. So that's going to be on the relic there. And then on the memories here, it looks like I'm kind of curious here. Let's see. Probably going to just be the additional damage for bosses, maybe. 5 per 5 seconds. It's probably not going to be very good. When releasing a trait skill, its murderous intent is not less than 90%, inflict an additional 25% damage taken on all enemies in Holy Dominion. I mean, that's going to be more damage thing. I don't know how realistic it is going to be to be above 70% of your maximum murderous intent. So we're going to have to tinker around with these. I'm not really sure which memory is going to be the best, but we'll have to figure that one out and actually play with it here. We got Bad Knight Role Model here, which is going to allow continuous channeling of trait skills during which Holy Domain follows you. So this one is probably going to be very, very sought after because, again, Rosa with Savage Rush is probably going to be very, very popular. Being able to have, Holy Domain follow you while you are, having Holy Domain follow you while you're, charging around just to ensure that you're getting that extra murderous intent the first time something enters the bubble, because you're going to be running directly into them with the bubble. This is probably going to be a staple and be really, really sought after because of that. Activates hero trait Desperation here, which this means you get to have Improvisation and Desperation. I mean, that's just going to be pure upside. So if you can get it, we're going to want it for sure. And then for other memories here, we got some additional damage, and then even more additional damage if they end up leaving the bubble as well. So, yeah, I mean, as usual, the legendary hero memories are normally really, really strong. So you pretty much end up with anything you can kind of get your hands on. You end up wanting to use. And then there's some combinations that we'll have to tinker around with when we actually get to them here. Holy Illumination Range. They're pulled into the center. Holy Illumination can lock onto enemies. Huh, interesting. So it locks onto the person, and when the player is within the range, they're pulled to the center of the Holy Domain. I wonder if they mean the enemy is pulled to the center, or we are pulled to the center always. So, like, we'll always basically instantly get into melee range, which could have its uses. The every 1 meter moved thing might be good again for, like, a Savage Rush build, something like that, where it's, like, 50% more damage for no reason, right? You're always going to be running in a circle anyways and moving, so just more stuff leaning towards Savage Rush being really, really good on Rosa. So Rosa train is going to be real for sure. Holy Dynasty with that orb for 3 seconds after using a defensive skill, you will block all incoming hits, but cannot block otherwise. Bonuses to attack and spell block chance are instead applied to block ratio. This could end up being really, really good. I mean, with some cooldown reduction, you can get your defensive skills. I'm curious if there will be some other kind of back-end thing on this to prevent you from just getting, block chance that's way too often. But we'll have to see. This may be really, really strong, and we'll just have to kind of get a feel for it. We got Thunderstorm Beam here, which we saw this in the preview. Basically, you are casting a Thunderstorm Beam, which almost reminds me of like an Ice Spear, something like that. And then you generate Thunder Orbs, which follow you around and use the exact same skill. So this one seems like it has some really, really big upside to it. It looks like the in the preview they showed them with basically a character that was set up with a lot of extra beams. So the number of thunder orbs they had following them was like 7 or 8 or something like that. So it seemed really, really strong with that. We'll have to tinker around and see some numbers on it. It's really hard to know with skills, basically, without actually seeing the numbers on the skill itself at max level to kind of see how the skill holds up to other things. Same with Whirlwind Blade. It looks like it has a lot of potential because, again, it deals damage every quarter of a second. The more cast speed you get, the more often it will proc. And then it can shotgun as well. So this is going to play similar. It looks like it has a fixed flight distance. Then it stops in place, and then it will fly back to you. So if you get really, really good about using the skill, again, you can be positioning yourself to where as the projectile is coming back, it's like finishing off packs behind you, things like that. So you'll be able to really take advantage of this, and I think this skill will be used a lot because it looks really cool. Starstalker creates a projectile that fires forward, and it looks like it will give you a 50% more damage for damage over time. And it looks like it will track elites for you to ensure you're always in range of those, which will be really nice. We have Harmonious Field, which is going to basically be a buff for sentry builds. You'll be able to channel this once your sentries are down to increase their duration as well as give them more damage. So instead of just having to keep repeatedly recast your sentries, once they're down, you can keep using this to buff them and keep them up. It looks like they finally have an added physical damage support with some really, really high base numbers there for the actual base physical damage. And then we finally have some base bleed chance. So the like Warlock tree in particular, using the dirty traits, or dirty tricks rather, major talent, get some huge benefit because instead of before where we used to have to craft base bleed onto an amulet in order to get all 5 ailments on like a a setup for freezing transmission for like Thundercloud Gemma, something like that, we can now just run this on the freezing transmission instead, right? So we can run it with the added lightning, added fire, added physical, and the added chaos in order to get all ailments, which would be really nice. We have Charge here, which will increase your Warcry cast speed after using specific mobility skills. Could be useful. And then we have Limber Stretch here, which will give some increased restoration duration and also give you a big movement speed bonus for 3 seconds after using the supported skill. This is really nice. Anything for more movement skill, it's always great for leveling. It's always great for, end game. We always want more movement speed. So if we can get some more movement speed on top of our normal flask, we're going to go ahead and take that. And then we got Gladiator's Roar, which will give 59%. Okay, so this is for war cries. This just increases the range of war cries and gives them a knockback effect on the war cry itself. Pretty cool. So we have some new legendary gear here. It looks like this Paradox of the Second Will what's this do? It looks like you get some skill duration benefits as long as you're 80 chaos, and for every 1 point in chaos you get some increased skill area, and this actually starts you off at 50 chaos. So instead of starting out at 100 order and having to get to 50 chaos, this will start you at 50-50 already. So for builds that are looking to build around running chaos, divinity slates, things like that, this will be really, really nice. We got Captivated belt here. I'm curious if this is going to be random specific legendary equipment affixes, or if this is just going to be similar to the belt that used to drop from Traveler before all those mods got moved to divinity slates. So I guess Infinity, that was the old belt name. I'm curious if that'll be similar to that, or if this is what exactly this is going to have on it. So that should be interesting to see what these end up having. We got Sea Splitter here. Gives you a guaranteed steep strike. I wonder if that's just one guaranteed steep strike. Then during multi-strike, each attack deals less additional attack damage until the multi-strike ends, but it gives you a really, really high chance to multi-strike. So there's probably going to be some things to play around with this with Erika, things like that. So another nice build around unique here. We got Cage of the Frost Drinker, which really high ES armor here. And then it looks like it will give you additional freeze duration, which really is going to pair well with the new Frostbite and Gemma. So that should be interesting to see kind of how she ends up playing out with the new changes. And hopefully they got her to a place where she's actually going to see some use. We got Formation Breaker here, which is a placing a sentry skill, grants less attack and cast speed. I don't know if this is actually right or not. We'll have to see when the actual things come out. But it gives you additional damage to enemies near sentries, and they get demolisher charges when using sentry skills. So I wonder if this is built around specific sentries that are actually going to use demolisher charges themselves. We'll have to look at this in game and kind of get a feel for it. We got Shadow Dance, which is really high movement speed. That's really high movement speed. And you gain a stack of wilt every 0.1 seconds. So you basically take some Chaos Degen when there's elites around in order to have really high movement speed. I think that's more than welcome. I think everyone will be more than happy. Hopefully these can be used at like level 1 or really low, just to increase the speed of leveling up. That will be awesome. We got Aslan here, which gives you Gigantism, gives you higher aura effect on Steadfast, +5 to aura skills, and gives you some additional armor. That's really nice. It just makes you extremely tanky. That will be very sought after, especially if they, co-op play once it comes out here pretty soon. There will be some more bots running around, which will hopefully be wanting to run something like this. And we got Seratuya, which is miniaturization, gives you nimbleness aura effect, same aura skill level, and then gives you some extra deflection stacks here. Thornbearer Silver Shackles, we went over these in the preview, which basically this will give you that that bonus where you're getting some life restoration, and then some additional critical strike damage, and then you will be getting some reduced physical damage at the cost of basically giving up a lot of movement speed. So, I don't know if how these are going to feel. I mean, 80% of the base movement speed is still going to be pretty slow, but it looks like you end up getting at least really powerful with this. So, this might end up probably being really useful for something like Path of the Brave, where you're not really moving that much, or you don't need to be moving that much, and you'll be able to like really take advantage of 400% crit strike damage, as well as like the less damage taken and the life and ES recovery. So that'll be really cool. That seems like more so what this is set up for. Maybe some sort of bossing setup where you don't need to move if your build is tanky enough. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up using those and gets the best application out of them. What do we got here? A reverse mirror shield, which gives you some nice attack and spell block. Gives you some nice damage if you've blocked recently. And then grants agility blessings to nearby enemies, as well as gives you a chance of getting agility blessings. So agility blessings to nearby enemies, I guess, is just in order to basically try to get enemies to attack you more often, so you're blocking more often. Could be useful. I mean, we'll have to see compared to like either a crafted shield or some other shields here. We have this butterfly wing shield here, which is allows you to basically add a lot of damage based off of stacking evasion. Yeah, this one will probably end up getting more use than the other one, just because the application of being able to stack evasion for a lot of big damage will really come in handy. As long as we can get some other conversions, to even convert the evasion to armor, something like that, if you're just kind of actually relying on block. If you are using a shield, that'll be some really cool stuff. We got some new pack spirits here. These are some new drop quantity pets here. This is basically increased quantity from nightmare monsters, dream talking drop quantity. So this is going to be your new league pet. If we're doing the league mechanic, every little thing, every time if you can get the legendary pack spirit, you definitely want to use it. It's very useful. We got a nice defensive pack spirit here with some spell and block chance. This is built for Rosa. This will be really nice. Some nice culling here on block. Really cool. And then we have the Witch of Antelope Lust here, which is damage and minion damage, some erosion resist, and crowd control effects. So, yeah, this should be nice. This can be used on like either the new Iris, or this can end up being used with like Frostbite and Gemma, things like that. The extra crowd control will be really, really useful. City of Eterna, I know, has been added to the core game. So, you can basically select City of Eterna. Hopefully it's on the trait deck, and then it will just randomly appear in maps as well, which will give you tickets possibly to Eterna's gameplay, so you can use those to get additional chances in there if you just want to farm the city more often, things like that, which will be really, really nice. Soul candles are now tradable, so there will be some really, really nice profit potential there by taking candles and actually crafting them out for other players. So really looking forward to that. And then when you are doing Infinite City of Eterna, you'll be able to rank up like +5 levels at a time instead of 1 at a time, so you'll be able to get to those higher ranks for those extra rewards much, much sooner. Other than that, it looks like they have optimized some traps so they don't do as much damage. I'm thinking mainly like the beam ones, maybe. I don't even remember. That's maybe about halfway through the story where you're having to go do those 3 trials, and one of those traps does a lot of damage, things like that. The Plaza of Glory will no longer be besieged by endless waves of Vegito. And yeah, so just general story adjustments make things a little bit easier and more consistent while you're leveling through. For the Netherrealm itself, oh, they rotated things a bit. Grove of Calamity is gone. They no longer want us farming the fastest map as possible. Looks like Glacial Abyss, they've rotated all the maps, so this will actually be interesting here. We'll have to do a new video now to see what I'll have to arrange my spreadsheet. I did a spreadsheet a few leagues back, basically measuring the amount of monsters that are in every single map, as well as what percentage of them you actually end up killing along the way if you're just running like a straight line to the boss. Because again, I mean, depending on what you're doing, typically you just want to be doing a beeline to the boss. You're not trying to have to do a bunch of sidetracking to clear a map. So we'll have to see what's actually the new best with things that have been rotated around. I know Demi-Main Village was my favorite map before. As long as it's still here, we're still going to want to be doing that. But I'm actually not seeing that. So, I guess only some of these are being moved, I guess, because they're only talking about like maybe 5 or 6 of the maps here. So not everything is rotating, which is nice. So Glacial Abyss is probably still going to be the best then, if Demi-Main Village is still there. I don't see that it's moved. So that's probably still going to be where we're going to be at the majority of the time. Rainforest of Divine Legacy, I remember, was like a fine map. Blustery Canyon was okay. Plateau was okay. Plaza and Defiled Side Chamber are not going to be your favorite maps to do, but they're fine. So Glacial Abyss is probably still going to be the same thing just because of that. So, but once we get in there, we'll take a look at it and we'll figure it out from there. They have added some additional difficulty to doing Path of the Brave 5. For the I guess that's the new season's ultimate challenge. So I'm curious how much harder this actually got. We were doing it on Iris before last league, so we'll be trying to do it again this league with Rosa and Iris as well. And then so Path of the Brave, everything spawns a lot faster. So we're able to get that cleared sooner. And okay, when the City of Eterna does not connect to a boss, the open portal will be a town portal. Very useful. That's nice. And let's see here. Improve the naming of interactive objects in the Six Gods gameplay. Okay, drones and God of the Machine no longer carry a random drop indicator. Alright then. Let's see what else we got here. Monsters have been adjusted a bit. We got some casting wedges here. They've adjusted some of the loot filters a little bit. There were some wedges and things that were basically like removed from some of the loot filters. So, okay, this will be cool. More bases to kind of work with will be really, really nice. And then T5 beacons, they want these to be sustained more often, which is really nice because, you know, having to bounce back to T7 after being in T8 quite a bit was not always the funnest thing. And then reduce the quantity of drops from treasure chests. Yeah, treasure chest farming with the city became kind of a meta thing last league, and they don't want us doing that anymore. Let's see. Drop probability of legendary gear at each stage has been reduced. So they want us to be in deeper T8 basically because of you know, it's going to be much easier to sustain being in deep T8. So because of that, the rewards are going to be reduced for the plane watchers. That's not that big of a deal. The majority of the loot you were getting wasn't coming from them anyways. That's fine. Okay, some new loot. Those are probably some new div cards, I presume. And then, or some new fluorescent memories, rather. Let's see here. So they have some new memories for the new uniques as well. And everything else is just going to be some bug fixes here. And optimizations. Okay, they've also adjusted the price on the compasses in the compass shop. So everything is not the same baseline anymore. I presume the mechanical compasses were giving too much value, basically. So they've adjusted them because of that. That's not too bad. That still, you know, helps keep things in line so we're not all forced to basically farm one specific thing just because it happens to be an outlier and how much money it's giving us. So, yeah, other than that, a bunch of stuff here.